get into your editor of choice and put in our starting information, which is this. All right, so do this. All right, we fell behind yesterday, and we have to start on JavaScript next week, or we're never going to have time to finish. So I'm going to be going today. All right, we're doing 13 today, then we'll do 14 tomorrow, 15 on Thursday, and 16 on Friday. That's it. That's right. Then we'll have to do, somehow we'll have to squeeze in 2 chapters on one of those days. Well, this one's going to take longer. All right, because you've got a lot of typing you got to do in here. The whole thing itself is about 130 lines. Then we got about 40 lines of CSS to put in. So we're going to build a little bit, and then we'll run it to make sure it looks okay. It's going to look really bad, just so you know. Look on the screen here. I'm going to comment out this, oops, not here. I'm going to comment out this line for right now, just so you see it. This is what it's going to look like when we first do it. I don't know. But when we start off, this is going to look really bad. That's all I can tell you. Now, the dumb question is, what do you have to connect to the network for? Oh, okay, well, I don't know. You might want to go in here. You have a tab or a thing down here that looks like this. Yeah. Click on there and make sure that you're in as Rankin.
Well, I usually have the Rankin IT, and on the left, but I tried the Rankin one.
Yeah.
And it says enter using the password.
Try doing the Rankin guest then. See if it'll take that. The only difference between Rankin IT and Rankin guest is from Rankin guest you can't print. But typically for Rankin guest, they don't ask you to do any kind of connecting. They don't ask for a password or anything else. Are you in?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you all have this?
No.
Then hurry it up. Like I said, we fell behind yesterday. But Keegan, you, at least with yours, you should be able to just get into there, put in your exclamation point, hit tab, and you've got it. Yeah. And that's the advantage of using Visual Studio Code. Again, as we do this, it's going to look pretty ugly. Don't let that bother you. All right, we will put the CSS in. There's not much CSS, and then it'll pretty up. Mr. Corrigan walks by here. He will make you take that coat off, just so you know. All right, are we caught up? All right. This is not random. We've been using this all semester.
Well, I'm saying like the X dash
this,
dash.
Then just don't put that in. All that says is if you're using IE, try to make sure the browser is Edge. No. When I did the exclamation point tab, it gives me that line. All right, so I'm going to start now. Inside of this, we're going to have a main, and I'm going to set a class equal to contact. Don't worry about it. It's something that we have to add later. All right? So this is what I've added so far. Just these two lines. Main class equal contact main. All right. Then I'm going to put in an H1 tag that says contact form. That's all it's going to say. Okay. Now when I put that in, okay, let's just put this in here. Index.html. I'm going to call it contact form. Contact form.html. All right. So that's my contact form so far. Not very much to it. All right. Now, I've already got the CSS written, so I'm going to remove this line. And right now it just looks like this. Pretty much the way you'd expect it to look, right? Contact form. That's all that's in there. All right. Not real much, because that's all we got in there is an H1 tag. All right, so let's start adding some more stuff. When you work with a form, it's got to go inside of a form tag. That shouldn't be a surprise. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say form method equal get action equals double quote. All right. Form. So add these two lines. It's not going to look any different. If you save it and run it, all you're going to see is the H1 tag that says contact form. But I want to explain what's going on in this line right here. All right. When we work with this stuff, look on the screen, please. We're going to say one of two things. Either method equal get, like we've got, or method equal post. You're going to say one thing or another. All right. Now, stop typing for a second, please, and look up on the screen, because I'm going to bring this up. Okay. Now, do you see this? This is me getting into my mail, but I know it's kind of hard to read. I don't know what there is. So, all that junk. There. Can you see this up here? Right there. Can you see all that junk?
Yeah.
All right. You may or may not know what that means, but what's a URL? Not all of it. Everything up to right there is a URL. That's a URL. But what comes after it? A question mark. All right. So this stuff that's right here, this stuff that you see there, from the question mark on, that's called the query string. You may have seen that if you've ever filled out a form or something else where it's got a bunch of your information up there. All right. If you see that information up there, that's a get. It puts the information in a query string. But imagine that it asked me in here, so it's asking me for my password, okay? So imagine that when I put in my password, that showed up there. That wouldn't be a good thing, because somebody who is looking, it's possible to do what's called sniff the net, where people can try to look at what I'm typing in. All right. If somebody found my password, I wouldn't be happy, because then they could get in as me. They could send malicious emails and it would look like they were coming from me, etc. Does that make sense? So when you're working with information that's not privileged, it's not private information, you use one of these gets. But when you're working, so again, if I come out here and I go out to Amazon.com, and let's just say I'm not going to really buy this, but let's say that I wanted this book, Robert Frost. Okay, so I said I wanted it. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to add it to my cart. All right. Well, you may or may not have noticed, but what changed here is it went from HTTP to HTTPS, which means that it's secure. Now, I still got some stuff in here, but what's going to happen is if I go to my cart and I try to buy this, that information that's there, it's not going to show. That's called a post. So when you've got private information that you want to put in, credit card numbers, passwords, etc., bank account numbers. You don't want them to show up there. So if that's the case, then instead of using get, you use post. All right? We don't have any privileged information, so we're using a get. This thing right here that says action equals, again, you may know this, you may not know this. But if I come out, for example, if I go out to Rankin's site, let's just try that one. So if I go out to Rankin, all right, once I start moving around, why choose technical education? Well, I'm going to go here to common questions. Would you agree that information's not on my screen? I mean, it's on my screen, but would you agree that that information's not on my machine? It's on Rankin's server. Would you agree with that? I wouldn't want it. I want it available to me if I want to look at it, but I don't want it because it would just waste space on my hard drive. So what happens here is if when I click the form and if there's a submit button on the form, if I want it to go somewhere, that's what I put in here. Action equals. All right? We don't care because we're not having it go anywhere. It's just going to show right on the screen. That's all this is going to do, which is fine. All right, so let's start putting in some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and we're going to put in a little code and then we'll take a look at it. So I'm going to say label class equal contact. I'm going to put this on multiple lines just so you can see everything I'm doing. For equal SSN. Social Security number. All right. Label input type equal text. Name equals SSN. D equals SSN. Span class contact. D equals. Make sure I didn't make any mistakes typing. All right, so that's what we'll have when we get done. Doesn't look like much, all right, but I want you to type that in and we're going to go over everything that's in here. When you get done, save it, run it, make sure it looks the way that mine looked. All right? Again, it's probably going to end up looking a little bit messy on the page. That's totally fine. All right, this right here, this that you see in gray, that makes this. Does that make sense? We're telling it to make a label A label is something that you use. You know, you've seen this. You've filled out forms where they say Mr., Mrs., etc. You know, like a salutation. That's a label. Well, that label will have a class associated with it called contact. Same one that we've got up here. See this? Class equal contact, class equal contact. That's fine. This is a little confusing where it says for equals. Look on the screen, please. All right? I can click in here and I can enter something now. I can do that. Don't worry about putting anything in there. But let's say that I don't want to be there. Let's say that I'm over here. If I click on the label, you see how I go inside of there? See that? Again, I click on the label and I go right inside of there. That's because it says that label is for this field. That's what it's saying. Okay? And this is the text. A label begin tag and a label end tag. Then this, as you'd probably guess, this thing right here, that is this right here. And the asterisk that we put on in the end. We'll talk about that later. It's no big thing. But it says we're going to have an input. It's a text box. Its name is SSN. Its ID is SSN. So why do we say name and ID? When we get into the JavaScript part of the class, we're going to be using this ID. We're going to be using something that's called, you don't have to write it down, it'll be important, but not for a while. We're going to use something called get element by ID. So in this case, that ID would be this. All right, so that's how we're going to be able to refer to what we have on a form in a JavaScript program. Okay, and then, so that's all of it. So this is the text box right here. I want to put an asterisk on the end of it. So if you don't put something in there, I want it to give a message. We're not going to talk about that today. But I want a message that says required field. Okay? So that's what that's for. Now, some of you type faster than others. So let's try to make this easy for ourselves. Hit enter a couple times so you got some blanks in here. Grab everything that you had up until right here. Grab all that. Copy it to the clipboard. Come down a line and paste it in. Now we're going to change this. So this will now become F name because it's going to be first name.
Is it before or after?
After.
The form tag?
No, it's all has to be in the form tag. Everything we're doing has to be in the form tag. So after I did all of that copying and I changed SSN to F name, notice that now, look on the screen please, see what we added? Now we've got a first name. So all I did, make this smaller, I've got the exact same thing that I had before, all right, but where it said SSN, I changed it to F name, SSN, I changed it to F name, SSN, I changed it to F name, SSN error, I changed to F name error. Make sense? All right, then I'm going to grab that one that I just put in, all of the first name information. I'm going to grab all that, copy it to the clipboard. Right before the ending tag, I'm going to put it in again. Now I want to change F name to L name for last name. This is much faster than having you retype this stuff in all the time. Whoops. All right, so all the F names I changed to L names, and if you look on the screen here, now you can see what I have. So after you get done with that, you save it, it should look like this. Not very pretty, but we don't have any CSS in here. So again, these two things are identical, except this one says first name and F name. This one says last name and L name. Does that make sense? All right. After you've done that, let's grab what we just put in here for L name. Let's copy that and paste it in again. Now we want to change all those last name, that last name, we want address. All right, and this will be address. And this will be address. And this will be address. All of them, thank you. So that's address. And if you save it, you've now got that. Is this making sense, what we're doing? We're just putting in the elements that are going to be there for a form. So again, these two things are identical, except this says last name, L name, and this one says address. All right? We're going to do it one more time. We're going to copy this one more time. And every place you've got address, change it to city. Oops. And if you save that and take a look at it, it now looks like this. Now it looks, like it's almost leaning or something. We'll fix that with CSS. All right? And that's fine. Do you understand everything we've done so far? You could type values in there. You could type anything you wanted into any of those boxes. We don't care about that right now. Now, the next thing that's in here, it's not as simple. Because what we want, please look up on the screen here. What we want is this. See this? Please select your state. See that? I don't want you to type in 50 states because it would take too long. I don't care how good a typist you are. It would take too long anyway. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go out to the internet and find where that information is. But before we do that, we're going to come in here and we are going to put in one more label, just the label part. So I'm just grabbing the stuff in here that's got the label, just that stuff, and I'm going to put that in down here. This will say state. This will say state. All right. So again, if I run this, whoops, and you look at it, now we've got just the word state. Okay. Now, I'm going to find it, so let's see. I'm going to give you the URL. I think this is it from Free Formatter. Yes, it is. All right. Go out to this website, please, just so you don't have to type. So go out to that. You don't need the www. You should be able to just go out to here. Once you go out to there, tell me if it looks like this. See this? Tell me if it looks like that. So freeformatter.com/USA-state-list-HTML-select.html. This is going to save us about 53 lines of typing. The states and the other stuff we have to put in. Again, unless you really want to put that in, and my guess is you don't. You don't want to type it manually. Did you get there? Are you sure you typed it in correctly? All right, then try putting the https://www dot in front of it. And if you say it still isn't right, I don't want to fight with you, but you typed in something wrong. Because it should come up without any problem. Okay. All right. Then go to the website. See this? We're in this box here. See this? Can you all see this? Where it says state list plus district. Take your mouse and just highlight all of it. from the top to the bottom. So make sure everything that's in there is typed in. You with me? All right. Copy it to the clipboard. Come back to here. Come back to your file. And right underneath the label, paste it in. Now, it's not going to be formatted well. I'm going to have to hit tab a few times to move it over, but that's okay. So I'm going to grab those 50 states. And I'm going to tab. Can you see what I did here? The only thing you have to add to this, all right, just one thing, if you would please, see where you got this beginning select? It's line 71 for me. Just type in ID equals state. We'll just leave it, just set the ID there. That's fine. So select ID equals state. And look what we've got now. Look on the screen, please. See this? This is what you just added. You've got all the states and even the District of Columbia in there. All right? So again, like I said, I realize it doesn't look very good, but we now have 90 lines typed in out of our 130 lines. So we've got most of it already typed in. Okay? All right. Now, you said you've all got this. Yours are both looking like mine is? All right. Let's go back up to here where we had this thing, that label, and you had the input, type equals, etc. So go up by where you have the city one here. Highlight it again, all of it. All right. Highlight all of it, copy it to the clipboard, and go underneath where your state ends. Underneath, hit enter a couple times, and paste it in again. This is going to become zip code. And we're going to just call it zip there, and zip there, and zip there, and zip there. Oops. That's zip error. Zippy zip. All right. If you did that part correctly, okay, and you come back and you run it again, we now have zip code. Well, look, I didn't hit enter. So right before this, right at the end of that select statement, put a couple BR tags in. All right, right there at the end of the select. Put in a couple BR tags, then it should look like that. Okay? All right. We've got a few more of these to do, so let's do another one. So right under the zip code, put that in again, and instead of zip, this is going to say cell phone. So we now have this. We now have that. Doesn't look very good, but it's working. Should be working if you put all that in. Now we've got about 40 more lines to type in. All right.
Could you scroll up for a second? I actually make this one do.
Now look, if you would please. This is the one that we're trying to emulate right here. Look on the screen. So we've got the social security number. We've got the first name. We got the last name. Got the address. We got the city. We've got the state. We can change that. We'll change that in a minute to please enter your state. We now have the zip code, and we have the cell phone. Would you agree with that? We got all that stuff. Look what's next. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. See that? Now we need, these are called radio buttons. So everything we've done, text box, text box, text box, text box, text box, select list, because you can select from it, text box, and text box. Does all that make sense? All right. The next two things that are in here, these are radio buttons. Now, you're both too young to know about this, probably, but the other day, driving down the road with my wife, we passed a 65 Mustang. Okay, it had the antique plates on it and stuff like that. Back in the olden days, you had an AM radio in the car. In that AM radio you had in the car, you had like 5 buttons on there. You could push any one of those buttons and program them to a radio station. Does that make sense? That's how this got its name. Just so you know. So I can say the gender is either a male or it's a female, but notice if I go from one to the other, can you see that? So we're going to make one of these for gender, and we're going to make one of these for age. All right? These are called radio buttons, and then look down below. These are called checkboxes. So what we're going to do is we've got to put in 2 sets of radio buttons, 1 set of checkboxes, a couple buttons, and our footer. What's really good about this is if you look, we've got what? Probably 75% of our form is already done. Yeah, we have to format it, but it's done. All right? So let's put in this, then we'll put in this, then we'll put in this, then we'll add the 2 buttons, we'll add the footer, and we'll take a break. All right? It's really not that much code. So, you're all caught up, correct? Then we'll look at it during the break. You probably have something typed in incorrectly. So, like I said, the next thing that we want to do here is we want to come in and we want to put in we want to put in another label, but this is for gender. So this is going to say gender, and so is this. So you could add that, and again, now it's going to look like this. Got something up there that says gender on it. See that? All right. But we don't do this. This is not a text box. It's a radio button. So after our label for class equal contact, for equal gender, now we have to come in here and we have to tell it input type equal radio. All right. Why? Because it's a radio button. All right. And as we put this stuff in, this is what we're going to say. All right, so input type equal radio. Again, I'm just putting this on a new line so you have plenty of room to type your stuff in. Now notice if I just stop right there, just for a second, I'll give you time to catch up, but just if I stop right there, what do I have? All I've got is that, just one button. It's not going to do much. It's only one button. All right? And after I say there that the value is equal to female, all right, then what I have to put after that is the word female. Notice now, after I did that, after I added the word female to the end, look what's there. See that? Now, it doesn't look very pretty. On our finished product, we want it to look like that. It doesn't matter if you use male first or female first. I just put it like that. It's no big thing. All right? So what we want, though, look on the screen, please. What we want is between male and female, we want there to be some space there. See this? See where the blue thing is? I'm going to manually put in some space. You may remember this. You may not remember this, but it's something that we talked about before. All right, but like I said, you may or may not remember it. But I'm going to put in here ampersand NBSP. All right, and I'm going to put that in there 3 times. Ampersand NBSP, ampersand NBSP. That stands for non-breaking space. Did you hear me? That means it's like you hit the space bar. It forces there to be 3 spaces in what we're doing right now. It forces that to happen. All right? Now, I want to grab this input tag, this thing right here, and I want to make a copy of it. Those lines, just the input lines. Put it right underneath. This one will say male, BR, BR. And look on the screen if you would. How did that change? See what we have now? Gender, female, and male. Can you all see that? And now look. If I click female and I click male, see how they go away? See this? When you click one, the other one becomes unclicked. So this is everything that you need in there for that. Let me know when you're finished. And like I said, I'd like to get this part done, then take a break. And after we take the break, we will go over the CSS. After the CSS, we'll go over the chapter. What you're going to find is we went through almost everything that's in the chapter by the time we get done with this.
It says SH.
We're going to get it. That's the class. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. That's just some name. Okay. Why is it SH? I don't know, because I typed in SH. I don't remember what it stands for, to be honest with you. All right. Now, what we're going to do, please look on the screen. We're going to grab everything we just did here for gender, everything. We're going to copy it to the clipboard, and we're going to copy it down again. So we now have that in there twice. But now it's not going to be gender, it's going to be age. All right? And we're going to call the class that we set up for it, we'll call it age. This will be age. This, in here, we're going to have 3 different values. This one will say 16-30. This one will say 16-30. The next one will say, all right, so we've got the 2 radios. This, again, is going to be age. This is going to be age. And the next one is going to be 31 to 50. And then we want 3 blank spaces again. All right, and then we're going to copy it in here one more time. Don't worry, I'll give you time to catch back up. This last one is going to say over 50. Now, let me make sure I didn't make any typing mistakes. See what we have now? See this? All right. We now have, as far as what we need to have typed in, we've got about 10 or 15 lines to go, and then we're done. Like I said, this is what we've got left to type. This little area that's right here. Literally, it's about 15 lines. That's why I want to do this before the break. Are you both caught up?
No, can you scroll one more time? Oh, okay.
When you run it, does it look like this? It should. If it doesn't, you've made a mistake typing someplace. So on the master one that we're doing, we've got now everything done except for this. Does that make sense? All right. So everything else, all this stuff is done. We're just up to here. So we've got to add a couple buttons, our footer, and then this thing. This is what we're adding next. Look on the screen here. These are called checkboxes because you can check none of them, or one, or two, or all three. See that? It used to be back in the olden days, like 10 years ago, when you worked with Microsoft, and for example, if you were working with Word, it would bring up a box and it would say BIU. Do you want to bold? Do you want to italicize? Do you want to underline? You could do none of them, or you could click any one of those checkboxes, any two, or all three. That's what this is. All right. So in order to create that, we're going to come in here. We're going to come down to the bottom here. All right. We're going to put in another label first. So I'm just going to grab the label, just the label part from up above. All right. And this is going to say reason. All right. And now when we come in here, it's going to be another input, but the type is equal to checkbox. That's all right. We'll fix it. The type is going to be checkbox. That's the key thing. All right, because that's what we're working with. Name equal. Got to put these brackets there with that. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Value equal. Now, let's see if this worked. All right. So there's my checkbox. Get healthy. All right. We're going to want to put 3 of these in here. So I'm just going to grab this whole thing. I'm going to copy it twice. All right. After get healthy, I want a couple spaces. NBSP, NBSP, NBSP. You can always go back and add these later. It's no big thing. So the first one was get healthy. All right. The second one is lose weight. And the last one is add muscle tone. Again, let's double check and make sure I didn't break anything, do something wrong. Now we've got that. See that? So when we get done from our final product, all we got left are these 2 buttons and our footer. That's it. Everything else is now in here. Literally, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lines to type, and then we're taking a break. Now, if you look up on the screen, I'll leave it there. It's not going anywhere. You see this? See this? You've not seen that before. That's actually something that's a programming term. All right? This means that it's going to be a collection of things. A collection of 0 things, or 1 thing, or 2 things, or 3 things. Would you agree that when you fill this out, if you don't know the person, you have no idea what they're going to check? Would you agree with that? You can look at most people. I mean, if I looked at you two, I would be able to fill out male, female, etc. But if you were joining this gym, I'd have no idea if it was for one of these 3 reasons or you weren't going to choose any of them. Maybe you just like the gym. Maybe you like their commercials or their website. All right? So that bracket means it's called an array or a collection. It's an array of things. We're going to talk about that starting in a couple weeks. All right? So all that's left in here, just so you know, all that's left is I want to come down, and when I get to the bottom here, I got to add those buttons. How do I do that? Input, type, equal, button. Name, equal, I called it validate. You can call it whatever you want, doesn't really matter. ID, equal, validate. Value equals submit. Oops. I want that to be a big S because that's actually what's going to be on the button. So value equals submit. Again, I want to put in 3 blank spaces. And I'm going to just stick another button in right underneath it. This one won't be called validate. It'll be called clear. And clear. And clear. Again, look on the screen. So what have we just added? Those 2 buttons. See that? Submit and clear. So literally all that's left for us to do is to put in our footer, which we'll do in a minute. 3 whole lines, and we're done. Now, you might think, yeah, this was a real pain in the butt. You didn't type that much because we did a lot of copying. All right, imagine if you had to type in every one of those states. You'd still be typing in the states. All right? So let me just put in, I'll leave this here. It's not going anywhere. All right? But I will, after main, let's put in the footer. You can put anything you want there. I just put my initials, but it doesn't matter what you put. That's it. Come back one last time and check. And there's my stuff. So now the whole thing is indeed complete. 200 lines, out of which you probably typed in about a quarter of them. The rest we just copied and made changes to the lines. If you're happy with the way it looks, it's 8:56. Please come back. I'm starting up right at 9:06. All right? So go take your break. Even if you're not done typing, finish it when you get back. I'm giving you 10 minutes.